where we're going to be discussing a very important topic which is pertaining to that which is taking place in Afrin. There has been a 35-year war between the Turkish authorities and military and Kurdish forces known as the PKK. And here to help us to unpack some of this is one of my personal favorites. He is a Turkish journalist and, you know, one of my comrades from Aleppo. But I mean, we shouldn't use the word comrade. But anyway, he is Abdulsamid Dagul. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Abdulsamid, you are of Turkish origin,
No.
Tamam?
Yes.
And so you've got a bit of a handle on this thing. Now I want to ask you, for people out there who are saying, we've been hearing about this issue between the Turks and the Kurdish forces for a long time, but we don't know what this thing is all about. What's the deal?
Well, yani, there is no 100% evidence on this theory, but it is seen that the creation of PKK was by the side of Western countries and by the US government. The PKK was always used to weaken the Turkish government whenever the Turkish government became strong, as the West and the US doesn't want a strong Turkey in the Middle East, as we know that most of these countries are always just exchanging who's going to invade next another Middle Eastern country, and they don't want a strong, understanding government in the Middle East. They want them all to be just dictatorships where they just come every few years and exchange the dictator in the country so they can rule the Muslims however they want the Muslims to be ruled, so the Muslims don't get strong and don't think about controlling the world, or don't think about to have a strong country. So this theory is a really strong theory that the PKK is more than 35 years. They were created by these countries as a group of militants inside Turkey, in the hills of Turkey. They just came out of nowhere and they just had amazing weapons which you would have to attack or overtake a big firearms depot or storage room of the army to have. Yani. So they were supported by governments, by Western countries.
How popular are the PKK amongst the Kurdish people? Do they like them, or they just kind of tolerate them, or what?
Well, in the beginning, they were liked and tolerated by most of the Kurdish people in the eastern side of Turkey, where the most population of the Kurdish people are. But then over the years, the Kurdish people understood and realized that this group is not about Islam and about protecting Kurds, because this is what they are saying.
So they're not an Islamic group?
No, they are not. They are known as to be a secular and communist party. They want communism to be ruled. Yani they want, basically, between Iran, Turkey and Syria, they want land from every country of those three which I just mentioned, and Iraq, sorry, and they want, between those countries, they want a country, a Kurdish country. But it's not about the Kurdish issue, it's about that the Western, like I said, the Western governments and the US, so they may have a corridor from the Arab countries to the ocean, so they may have, they don't have to pay taxes to no countries for their business, whatever they do there.
We're seeing this operation against PKK forces in Afrin. Yes. Why now?
Because Turkey basically said that the US is trying to make a terror corridor on the Turkish border from Iraq until Syria to the ocean, like I just mentioned. And the Turkish government obviously is threatened by PKK, and the YPG or whatever they call themselves every week, another name. Basically, they are the origin, they are PKK, and they are fighting for the same things of PKK. As you can see on their flags, the picture of Abdullah Öcalan, which is in prison since I don't know, nearly 10 years maybe in Turkey, which was the head, which was the creator, one of the creators of PKK, which was created in Turkey.
When Raqqa fell, they had in the town square a picture of him.
Yes.
So he still has a big standing.
Yes, so whoever says the YPG is not connected to PKK is lying, or he doesn't know that he is far from reality. Because YPG is the same as PKK. They are just the wing, the Syrian wing of PKK. PKK is called PKK in Turkey, and YPG is called YPG in Syria. But they are both the same group and the same ideology, basically.
Those the Peshmerga, which are in Iraq, do they have a connection to the PKK, or is that
no?
A
Not really.
thing?
Not really. They are a separate thing. As the Peshmerga, they are known more to be more Sunni Muslims. They call themselves, and they are not about this communism stuff. And even they even have beef between each other. The PKK or YPG, whatever you want to call it, between the Peshmerga.
So there are some people have a theory that this conclusion of Afrin is a foregone conclusion. It's already been agreed upon, and that these are only some light skirmishes which are taking place. PKK are going to fall back, and things in life is going to go on business as usual. Do you share this opinion?
That there was a deal made, you mean?
And of course that the PKK are in on it.
Well, about the PKK being in the deal, I really don't believe this, because I really doubt that, Turkey, the Turkish authority, would make any deals with the PKK. As Turkey, just a few years ago, they tried to make a deal with the PKK. They said, give up your arms and we will give you a solution. But the PKK used this opportunity, and they just brought more weapons from Syria to get ready for a big battle in Turkey. And even there was, I believe it was 1 or 2 years ago or something around that time, I don't know, I don't want to say something wrong. But they started operations inside Turkey, and they even were controlling for a few days some villages. They took over the villages from Turkish army and police forces, and they were controlling. So since then, Turkish authority basically said, you know what, we are done. Since 35 years you've been fighting us, we gave you a solution, you didn't listen, and we are finished. And I don't think for Russia, Iran and Turkey, for such big countries, they really don't need PKK to involve in any deals. And we know that Russia asked a few times for PKK to join the Astana peace talks, but Turkey said if basically they come, we are out of this peace talks. But if I believe that there was a deal made, yes, I believe this strongly, as I believe that there was a deal made for Aleppo's fall, and that Turkey was allowed to take over Al-Bab and Jarablus. And if I would say this, I would be considered as a person who is doing propaganda against the Turkish government. But whoever doesn't listen to my words, they can go to trtworld.com, which is the Turkish government's media wing. And there was a woman, I don't remember her name, she just wrote an article, which I wrote an article, a same article, but in Turkish language, about first Aleppo and now Idlib. And I was speaking about the deal which was made in Astana, and which, you know, Turkey and Russia's relationship is a give and take relationship. You know, they are not the best friends from yesterday. We just remember just 1 or 2 years ago where Turkey downed the Russian plane, and then they had big beefs going on. They are just since Aleppo now big friends again. But this is not a friendship which they love each other. This is just a political friendship.
Convenience.
Yeah, you give me and I give you. And basically, Turkey, from my opinion, this is only my opinion, I think that in Astana, and there was even a leaked map of the Astana peace talks, that Abu Duhur from the railway, from southern Aleppo and northern Hama and southeast Idlib, that it was red, it was regime controlled, and the Afrin was green, and Al-Bab and Jarablus was connected through Afrin with Idlib. And this was a deal made, which I really strongly believe, between Turkey, Iran and Russia, so that Turkey is going to turn a blind eye on Russia taking over the Matar Abu Duhur, which is called Abu Duhur Air Base.
Yes.
and that that Russia turns a blind eye on Turkey, that Turkey takes over Afrin. As we know that Russian forces were inside Afrin, and there were military bases, or one, I think, of the Russian forces.
Now, these fights are still ongoing concerning Abu Dhuhr. So these clashes are still taking place. The Sochi conference, it's really seeming like it's in a tailspin. Even the Kurds were not invited, is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. They were not.
So, you know, we were just discussing earlier that there may not even be, well, there would be a Sochi conference, but it's not clear that if any of the power brokers are actually going to be there. My final question to you is that where do you see this whole Afrin operation actually going? Do the PKK have enough firepower and manpower to be able to slam the brakes on this offensive?
I really doubt that the PKK has strong power enough to do that. As we know that the Turkish government in the recent years, they have really developed their military, and they have started to produce their own weapons and own tanks and helicopters and whatever. And there is a really strong military opposing them. And the PKK, they are just a bunch of militants. Well, we know that the US government have sent them nearly 4,700 lorries full of ammunition and weapon and you know, all the cars and all the tanks and everything, but still the manpower is not there, and even there are reports that ISIS prisoners which are imprisoned by PKK, that they were promised to fight against the Turks again in this fight, and that they will be released if they succeed in this battle.
Is there any credibility to that rumor?
Well, I'm not sure. But there is credibility from inside sources from inside Afrin. That I have a friend which has family inside Afrin, and he was telling me that the young boys above 18 years old, that they get forcefully taken to military services right now inside Afrin.
Okay.